Hi, this is Autohaus Hamilton TV, and according to the best available diagnostics we have currently, I'm James. This will be the first of a series of videos looking at suspension components. In this video, I will outline the basic components of suspension systems, and in future videos, we'll dig a bit deeper into each component, looking at exactly how they work and what they do. The components we'll look at are springs and other things which do the job of springs, shock absorbers, control arms, sway bars, and suspension bushes. Springs are the starting point in the suspension system. After all, it's the springs that separate the body of the car from road shocks. The body of the car is literally suspended on springs. Springs can take the form of, well, springs, or, as in 356 and 911 models, torsion bars, or, as in Panamera and Porsche SUVs, air suspension. Springs provide bounciness, but unless you enjoy seasickness or the sensation of pogoing off into the scenery, the suspension needs to be controlled, and that is where shock absorbers come into the picture. Shock absorbers introduce friction as a way of limiting the bounciness of the suspension system. From 997 and 987 models onwards, Porsche have had active suspension with shock absorbers that are electrically controlled to allow variable damping at the click of a switch. Prior to the advent of electronically adjustable suspension, if you had adjustable shock absorbers, it was necessary to change the damping characteristics by use of some adjustment to the shock absorber. In some cases, the shock absorber had to be removed from the car to be adjusted. In other cases, it was possible to set the shock up incorrectly without even removing it from the car. Control arms are levers which join the wheel carrier to the body of the car. The design can be straightforward, as it is in a classic 911, which in the front has an A-shaped structure at the bottom with a McPherson strut, or complex, such as the rear of a 993. As their name implies, control arms control the motion of the wheel through its range of motion. As Porsche suspension designs have become more complicated, so the number of control arms employed has increased. Where a classic 911 had 2 swing arms and two spring plates at the rear, a 996 or 997 has a total of 10 control arms at the rear. The final structural element of a car's suspension is the anti-roll bar or anti-sway bar, or as it's also slightly confusingly known, the sway bar. These are bars which link the left and right side of the car to one another in such a way that the car remains relatively flat when cornering. You could also add firmer springs to prevent the car leaning at speed. The advantage of using anti-roll bars is that you can leave the springs relatively soft for a more comfortable ride and use the anti-roll bars to provide additional lateral stiffness. Tying it all together are suspension bushes. Suspension bushes are usually made of rubber or a rubber-like material and are used to prevent metal-to-metal contact. Examples of suspension bushes are the bushes between control arms and the car's body, or between roll bars and the car's body. The firmer these bushes are, the more precise the control of the suspension elements. But that control comes at a cost, and that cost is increased harshness being transmitted into the cabin. More control is good, but less harshness is also good. Having cake is good, but then again, so is eating it. As we'll see when we look at these things in more detail in future videos, compromises abound, there are often slightly surprising consequences to changes, and nothing is quite as simple as it first seems. We could be in for a bumpy ride. As ever, thank you very much for watching. Springs provide bounciness,